I'm Cesar Delgado from Back Roads of Illinois podcast. Welcome to the show with us. I am joining with Karl Seltzer for Konasag out of Michigan. Karl is a co-owner of Konasag with his wife in Michigan. Good afternoon. How are you today? Karl, welcome to the show with us for today. I am glad to join us on the show for this afternoon.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate being here.
Let's go ahead to talk about the markets in today's close spell and the World Agricultural Supply and Demand Estimate report on this morning. However, it is going to pretty bearish today's report. Could you tell to our listeners what happened with the report?
Yeah, the numbers came out today and they were pretty well in line with what trade was expecting. The corn side of the numbers came out, and again, no changes to production in the December report, only to the demand side of the numbers. So when we saw the corn yield left unchanged, production unchanged, we did see exports raise 25 million bushels, putting them at 2.1 billion bushels for the year. That trimmed our ending stocks by an equal 25 million bushels, leaving them at 2.13 billion. That is a 14.7% stocks to use ratio and 4.8% ahead of last year. The USDA did trim the average cash price on corn to $4.85 for 2023-24, down $1.69 from what we had last marketing year. On the soybean side, no changes took place to the demand numbers, leaving our ending stocks at 245 million bushels, down 23 million from what we had last year. This equates to a 5.9% stocks to use and an average market price of $12.90. That is down $1.30 from last year. Looking at the wheat side quick, there again, the only change to the demand side, 25 million bushels to exports, still leaving our carryout at 659 million bushels, a 35% stocks to use, up 4.2% from last year, an average market price at $7.30. That is 10 cents higher than what we had projected in the November balance sheets. And of course, in this report, everybody was looking forward to the global side and mainly what was going to take place to South American production. Argentine crops left totally unchanged on the month at 55 million metric tons for corn and 48 million metric tons for soybeans. Now, while those were unchanged on the month, they are twice the crops that Argentina produced last year. And this really put some pressure on the market today, along with the Brazilian numbers coming out. 129 million metric tons on corn, unchanged on the month. 2 million metric tons higher than trade was expecting, however. On the soybean side in Brazil, and this is what trade really focused on, the production 161 million metric tons, 1 million metric tons more than expected, but a decline of 2 million metric tons on the month. Bottom line, ending stocks for the world market come in very little changed from last month. We had wheat at 258.2 million metric tons, corn carryout 315.2 million metric tons, and soybeans 114.2 million metric tons. Those changes, all less than 1 million tons for the month, really didn't get this market moving too much, and that the data really wore off pretty quickly, and we went right back to looking at the demand we're having in the.
Now that we were going to talk about the livestock market for today.
The livestock market today was driven again, and sometimes we overlook this, the wasde numbers on the livestock. Looking at the production numbers for 2023, beef production was left unchanged from November at 26.93 billion pounds. For pork production, to 27.24 billion pounds. That was a reduction of 20 million pounds from November, not enough to move the market. For 2024, we have beef production bumped up 180 million pounds, coming in at 25.99 billion pounds, and pork production unchanged on the month at 27.73 billion pounds. Average steer values and hog values is what trade has really been focused on. And looking at 2024, next year, the USDA is projecting an average steer value of $178.25. That is down $2.70 from the 2023 average. Hogs are expected to average $60 per hundredweight. That is up $1.30 from what we had in 2023. So a little bit of a mix there. The cattle market also looked at the demand side of the balance sheets. Beef exports for 2024 now projected at 2.845 billion pounds. That was unchanged from November. Pork exports for 2024 are estimated at 6.85 billion pounds. That was trimmed 100 million pounds from last year. And the number I really focused on in this report this week was the imports. USDA projecting beef imports at the end of 2023 will total 3.66 billion pounds. That was up 10 million pounds from what we had last month. Another 10 million pound increase to the 2024 beef imports, 3.7 billion pounds. That is coming in this lower grade beef that the U.S. consumer wants for burger. That's where we're getting those higher imports from. Cattle are starting to look at the fact that yearly export sales were very negative this week. Cattle a marketing year low, but still we see this back and forth trade that we've seen all week. Big losses in the market followed by big gains, and today was a big gainer. Looking at cattle up $3 to $3.35 on the live side. Feeder cattle up anywhere from $4.75 to $5. Hogs also up on the day as we saw some pre-weekend short covering come into the market. To be a little bit patient for values to get much higher than where they are. A short time ago, we were trading $200 cattle. They've backed off to that $1.69, $1.70. I do think we could make another run at that $2 mark. Unfortunately, if we see feeders run back up to that 240, 250 mark, it can have a negative impact. But I do think we see some higher values, like I said, especially on the live cattle as we move forward. Trade wants our high quality meat, and the consumer wants that as well. And that is a good benefit for the U.S. as we do have higher quality beef than the global market.
That's good for beef farmers and ranchers in this country.
Yes, it is.
Finally, what is your opinion on the corn yields for this year in Eastern Corn Belt?
The corn yields, the producers that I've been talking to, pleasantly surprised. They have been higher than expected, especially in the eastern parts of the Corn Belt where better precipitation was received for the month. Starting to hear reports of corn yields anywhere from 15 to 20 bushels per acre more than what we had a year ago. So a very good year for the corn yields. And then some parts of Illinois and Indiana where there was a little more drought stress, a little bit lower, but still, all in all, very good production numbers for the entire Corn Belt.
Is there anything would you like to go to tell our listeners about this grain market for today's world agricultural supply and demand estimate report?
One thing that I would advise everybody to take away from the report today is the simple fact that we have seen a shift in the market from a few years ago, and especially last year, where we were trying to ration a crop, to now we are looking to see what kind of demand we get. And there is some demand concerns, especially on the domestic side. The global market is a lot more abundant as far as their supply goes, and the mindset of the market is even for the soybeans, where there is some concern in the United States, there the global picture isn't the same, and the market is being driven by the global numbers more so than the domestic side right now. And I do think that is something that we see continue. And of course, these South American yield numbers, we're starting to see a little bit of soybean harvest in Brazil. It'll be a few more weeks before we get better numbers and more accurate numbers. But the fact that Brazil is still exporting record volumes of old crop soybeans while new ones are starting to be harvested really doesn't bode that well for U.S. soybean futures going forward. I think corn probably has a better chance of firming up in the future, given the relatively tight balance sheets and projected demand we do have on corn.
My pleasure that you joined the show for today. Thanks. You're welcome to join the show anytime. Thanks to be here on the show for this afternoon. This is Karl Seltzer for Konisag out of Michigan. From back roads of Illinois, I am Cesar Delgado. Have a good day.